This is the American Power Hour. I'm your host, Nick Metcalf, and I'm joined here today by the gorgeous, the beautiful Mackenzie. There she is. There she is, folks. The greatest co-host in streaming history. Good old Mackenzie. I got 2 reviews here today. Burger King. Apparently, Burger King redid their Whopper. So I decided I had to go try it. I also went to Tacos for Life, called Tacos for Life. And I do believe, it says it right here. Craft tacos. We create awesome tacos using the ingredients you know and love, right? For a cause. When you buy a taco, bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos, you provide a meal to a child in need. That's pretty great. That's a pretty great thing. What's up, Robin? How you doing today? Your live interrupted me right in the middle of one of your reviews. What review are you checking out? Is it a new one? The one from yesterday, I think, was the Taco Bell one, maybe? So I did 2 reviews today. They'll definitely be out this week. I try to stay very current on my reviews. I don't like stocking up a bunch of reviews. And then I don't want to put out a review where you're watching it and it was recorded 5 months ago or something. That would be kind of crazy to me. Robin said, I was watching the New Haven, Connecticut. Maybe an old one. I just get them on my reels on Facebook. Yes, that was, if it was in Connecticut. So I moved from Connecticut to North Carolina about a year ago. Just over a year ago. Me and my fiance, she was going to school Stamford, Connecticut, at Sacred Heart to become a physician assistant. So we both moved there. We moved in together for the first time ever. I lived in Buffalo. She lived in Rhode Island. Little love story here to start off the American Power Hour. We met on Instagram, and I drove to Rhode Island a bunch of times. She came up to Buffalo a bunch of times. We ended up moving in together in Stamford, Connecticut, and she did her schooling. And I was like, I'm going to try to do some stuff on social media. Robin said, nice. I moved from Oregon to Kentucky a year ago. I love the West Coast, but it was so expensive. East Coast is where it's at. How was Oregon? Where in Oregon were you at? That's one state I've never been to. I really want to go. During the summer, probably, because I really want to experience, the foliage and the PNW, Pacific Northwest. Go find Sasquatch or something up there. That's what I would want to do. Rent a cabin. That sounds like fun. Kentucky's cool too. Kentucky's very cool too. I was in Kentucky. Me and my fiance actually went to Kentucky, met up with Luke Foods, and we did a hike in Kentucky, Mammoth Cave. It was beautiful, gorgeous. Robin said I was on the southern end, right near the border of Oregon and California. I grew up in California, but after that failed, moved to Oregon and loved it. Nice. Very cool. Yeah, the West Coast is great. I lived in LA for a bit, about 5 years, I want to say. I loved it mainly. Robin said it's really beautiful out there, great scenery. Yeah, that's one thing that there's a lot of beautiful areas on the East Coast as well. But man, when I was in LA, you can go skiing or snowboarding in the mountains, and literally an hour drive, you're at the beach, swimming in the ocean. It was wild. Great place. We're going to get into, what are we talking about today? A little bit of Iran news. We went to war, dude. We're at war in Iran right now. And I'll give you guys my little take on why. Because that's really the biggest thing for me is why are we going to war in Iran? I don't have anything written out for this, but this is just my take based on some research that I've done. Maybe we should let some more people come in first. I don't promote these lives anymore. No promotion. So what I want to see how much traction we're getting on Twitch. And then I'll hit up my guy on Twitch eventually here. We're pretty close. We're pretty close to being confident to hit up my guy and say, hey, can you put us on the homepage potentially? Got a little hookup with Twitch. So Robin said, yeah, that's the perks of California, LOL. We did. I tried to stay off the news. Just want to keep me and my kids safe. Yes. Yep, exactly. That's always the biggest concern. Keeping the fam safe. So, I'll tell you guys the Whopper, the new Whopper from Burger King, they revamped it, and they basically just changed the bun, apparently. Apparently, they just changed the bun. I'll show it to you guys real quick. So this is one of the new things that they have is a clamshell. It's a clamshell for the Whopper. Let me just reload this real quick. Okay, cool. All right, so this is the new Whopper. Okay, I'm not going to pull it out because it's like wet and slimy. It's basically a new bun. It's basically new mayonnaise. They said it's creamier mayonnaise. And there was something else new with it. I think that was it. Creamier mayonnaise, new clamshell box. It's putting lipstick on a pig. That's what this was, in my opinion. This new Whopper was not worth it, in my opinion. If you enjoy the Whopper, then you'll probably enjoy this, because it's really not much different from what they already had. Robin said, I've never had Burger King. Fun fact, LOL, maybe the only American. There's definitely a lot of Burger Kings out there, so you might be. No, there's definitely other people who haven't had Burger King before. Mackenzie loves the fries. Ogoronix, how you doing today? Or should I say OG Aaron X. Happy Monday. Today's Monday, March 2nd, 2026. This is the American Power Hour. If you ever miss parts of the live, you can always go to the American Power Hour Facebook, YouTube, or Rumble. Got a Rumble going. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe to the Twitch. It helps keep the lights on here at the American Power Hour. Look at all these lights up here, dude. I got all these little they're like Halloween Christmas lights. They're orange. It's a cool vibe. When I turn all the lights off, should I do that? No, because it's light outside. So it wouldn't look that cool. But, yeah, so, dude, Iran, we went to war in Iran. And what's up, Ravioli? Happy Monday. Happy Monday. So, we went to war in Iran, and I do believe it was for Israel. They're telling us it was because they're building nukes in Iran. That's what they told us. But it turns out that the only reason why Iran would be building nukes is because Donald Trump ripped up the Iran nuclear deal that was already in place back in 2018. Iran would have never had the opportunity to build nukes if Donald Trump hadn't ripped up the agreement, because there was an agreement, the Iran nuclear deal, they could only enrich uranium to about 2 or 3%, I believe, is what the deal was. And No nukes, right? That was the deal. Donald Trump ripped up that agreement, which was interesting because not only did he rip up the agreement, which completely made Iran go, what are you doing? Iran's sitting there like, why did you rip up that agreement? I thought we were in agreement. I thought we had a deal. So Donald Trump rips it up in 2018, and then he also puts sanctions against Iran to where whatever countries are working with Iran, it basically just cucked their economy. And it made Iran go, what are you doing, Donald, and the USA? Why did you rip up the agreement and then penalize us on top of it? And it makes you go, that's kind of weird that Donald Trump would do that. Why would he do that? And the answer to why he would do that, they said, is because that agreement didn't include missiles. So instead of working out a new agreement and a better deal, Donald Trump just completely threw the agreement in. He ripped it in half, threw it in the garbage, and made it so that Iran has zero trust in Donald Trump or the United States of America. And so Iran's looking at this situation like they just ripped up the agreement and now they're penalizing us for everything. What are we going to do? What would that make Iran do? That would make Iran go, okay, well, we might as well start to try to build nukes. We might as well start to build defense for our country, because clearly there's something going on with the USA. Clearly there's something going on. Robin said, which is silly because you'd think you'd want more allies, not less. Yes. So Israel has wanted regime change in Iran for 30 years. It's been a long time that Israel has wanted a reason to go into Iran and topple the government. They've needed a reason for a long time. So if you think, if Donald Trump ripped up the agreement to where Iran couldn't build nukes, he ripped up the agreement, and therefore it would make Iran want to start to build nukes. It would then therefore, at some point in time, give us a reason to go in to Iran for regime change, which is what they wanted the entire time. Ogoronik said, who needs enemies when your greatest ally is Israel? So the whole reason why we're in Iran right now is not what they tell us, which is, Iran has nukes. It's not because, we care about liberating the Iranian people. Our government doesn't give a shit about the Iranian people, dude. If they gave a shit about people, they would be helping the starving people all around the world. It's not about helping the people in Iran. But it sounds good. It sounds good. Hey, they have nukes. They want to kill Americans. They're killing their own people. Let's do a regime change. It gives you the reason. But none of this could have ever happened unless Donald Trump ripped up that agreement in 2018. If Donald Trump had never ripped up that agreement, there would have never been the pretense for going into Iran for regime change. And why would Israel want Iran to topple? Well, if you look at the Middle East, there's a bit of a balance of power. You have Israel, Iran, kind of balanced out these powers. But if you can topple a government, it gives Israel, it could potentially end up making Israel a superpower. Do we think that Israel wants to become bigger, greater, more powerful? Of course. Of course. Ogoronik said Iran was the only one keeping the Middle East balanced. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Robin says, does our government even give a shit about its own people? I mean, at this point, it's all just a lost cause. All it's been and throughout history is fight one against the other and rule over this and that land. Yeah. So my whole thing is like some people are are arguing why it's a good or a bad thing. And I think that will be, we need time in order to judge whether it's a good or bad thing at the end of the day. Because if we go in there and regime change, lickety split, easy squeezy, lemon peasy, no one dies, bippity boppity boop, the Iranian people are happy, blah, 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 then you could say it's a good thing. But if Americans are dying, if there's sleeper cell terrorists in America, maybe at outside a bar in Austin, God forbid, there's something bad could potentially happen from this. And if bad things happen from this, then that will end up in time. We would look back at this and say, horrible, horrible decision. So the whole good versus bad argument, I'm not that interested in right now. Right now, it's merely the case of, okay, why are we doing this? And for the answer to why, it's not because they have nukes. They told us they have WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. Turns out that was with Iraq, I believe. They didn't have that. They never had that. It was a false pretense to go into war, which ended up lasting way longer than it should have. So, and that laugh was at the chat, just for folks watching after the fact. So at the end of the day, the reason why we're in Iran, regime change, is for Israel. Because there's really no other reason. The nuke theory, it's like you could have gone with the nuke thing if you didn't also rip up the Iranian nuclear deal that was already in place. People might have believed you a little bit more. The argument for keeping Americans safe and the Iranian people safe, it's like, not buying that myself personally. So at the end of the day, like I said, we won't know if this is a good thing or if it's a bad thing until after the fact. Gioso Swag, do you support Israel? Well, I'm American. I'm an American guy. I want what's best for America and the American people. There will be cases where what's best for America and the American people is also best for Israel. So in those cases, that would make sense. Yes. In a case like this, where it's kind of like a foreign war on the other side of the world in the Middle East, this is not, it's not going to be a good thing unless like there's no deaths and casualties and it's a lickety split type of operation. And it's not, I don't think you can throw a blanket statement of like, do you support Israel? Let's see. Oh, I think we shouldn't support them. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, everybody's got their thing. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, in every single scenario, it's Israel's bad, because I don't think that's the case. Ogoronic said there's already been 3 U.S. deaths, right? I think there's been 4. I think it's been updated to 4. So it's not looking good. Here's the thing: is it's not looking good. It's not looking as if this is going to be a quick in and out type of war, because it seems like Iran is going to try to fight back. That's what it seems like. Iran is a different scenario than Venezuela. People are trying to say Iran is Venezuela part 2. They're 2 completely different hemispheres. Geo Swag said, I think people from America shouldn't, sacrifice themselves for Israel. Yeah, that's, that's a fair thing to think. I think, yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, this is a war for Israel. So do with that what you will. You can think from there for yourself, but I think it's important to lay out the pretense for why we're there in the first place. That we never would have gone to Iran if it wasn't for Donald Trump ripping up the Iran nuclear deal. That had to happen first. So that's really the most interesting part about all of this to me, is looking back and seeing like, are they building nukes? How are they building nukes? I didn't think that they were allowed. I thought we had a deal in place. Oh, somebody ripped up the deal. And here's the thing. If you're going to rip up a deal with a country for nuclear weapons, why wouldn't you have a new deal in place before you rip up the old deal? Why would you rip up the deal, have nothing in place, and then penalize Iran on top of it? It doesn't make any sense. Unless the whole point of ripping up the agreement was to, in the future, go in for regime change. Because you knew that they would enrich their uranium. Because you gave them no other option. Robin said, I hear two different sides. On one hand, the people of Iran are celebrating. On the other, Iranian regime is pissed. Whichever way it goes, I think the best is to just be informed and prepared. Yeah, exactly. GeoSwag said, do you like Trump? There's some good things and there's some good things and bad things that he does. I'm not that type of guy where whatever he does, I'm like, yeah, that's amazing and that's great. And I put all my trust in this person. I hope he does the best. I hope he does the best for our country. A move like this, though, it makes you kind of question, was this a move for America or is this a move for Israel? And it kind of seems like it's more of a move for Israel that had been in motion for 30 years. There's videos of Benjamin Netanyahu talking 30 years ago. 30 years ago, he says Iran is 3 weeks away from having a nuke. 30 years ago. And it has continued and continued and continued. So GeoSwag said, at least you're better than Gypsy Crusader. Gypsy Crusader, is that the dude that like paints his face with the clown makeup and shit? Ogronic said, this is just making a lot of Iranians more radical. Yeah, but also happy too. Yep. Robin said, as every president before him and any president after him, we as the American people are just bystanders hoping our leaders keep us safe. Very true, Robin. Very true. Geo said, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that guy has some crazy clips. Kind of like he's like the heavier, more radical version of Nick Fuentes, I believe. I'm pretty sure that's... Ogronic said JFK was the last real president. Yeah, I believe JFK was the last president in U.S. history who wasn't Israel supportive, I believe. Every other president since then has been very much so supportive of Israel. So it's something where agreed said, right, yeah. So it's a very tricky game, but as long as we all know and we're all on the same page of like, okay, this isn't about nukes. This is more about the expansion of Israel and Israel gaining more power and becoming a superpower in the Middle East. You can also take it a step further from that and say that might be beneficial to America. That's something I haven't even thought of yet. But it's something. Ogronic said, and of course he gets, taken out. Not saying who did it, just saying, yep. That's the whole rabbit hole there. It seems like a lot of our government is in cahoots and working with Israel constantly, trying to help them. So, yeah, that's my whole thing on this war so far. It just started 2 days ago. So we're very new into this. And if we took that same timeline of just a couple of days and we applied that to the Venezuela invasion, we would say there is no war in Venezuela. It's already done and it's over. So people that are comparing Venezuela to Iran, kind of insane to me. Robin says, anyone who stands for the truth will be executed. They try to conceal. That's the hardest pill to swallow. But if you read into it, yep. Oh, yeah. And that's a great thing about the internet is there's a lot of people waking up to this. I have friends and family who watch Fox News and nothing but Fox News. And it's a lot of the rhetoric for this war is to keep Americans safe, and Iranians yell death to America. It's funny. I saw a clip. I think it was from a Fox News outlet, and it was a Jewish fella who was saying this is a war about religion because the people in Iran, they yell death to America, and it's part of their religion. So I kind of see the way in which they're trying to frame this, and it's very similar to the way in which 9/11 was framed, which was people from the Middle East, Allah, 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 terrorist. That was the whole thing with 9/11. It was all over every outlet. I mean, I was very young at the time, but just growing up, I have a preconceived notion of Middle East and Iran, Iraq, whatever it may be. You instantly think 9/11. They flew their plane into buildings, bad people. And so when it's reinforced nowadays with the Iranian war, it's the same sort of rhetoric where they go, it's part of their religion. They want to kill Americans. And it's like, that might be more like the radicals. Like it might be a religious thing, but it might be like the radical portion of that religion. And I'm pretty sure every religion has a radical part of that religion. So it's interesting to see the information war that's really taking place nowadays. It's interesting to me, but might not be the most interesting to a lot of people, but we're in it. We're in war with Iran, and knowing why, I think, is important. So, yeah, I think that's that's my piece. That's my 2 cents on why, and whether or not it's a good thing or bad thing. I guess only time will tell. But yeah, do you guys have any input on? It seems like most of the chat here is in agreement with me as far as the reasoning as to why we're in Iran. I don't think too many people are buying the whole, they have nukes, so we have to go in and destroy them, because they already played that with the weapons of mass destruction. Like, you already played that card. It's tough to replay the same card in an era where we have the internet, because we can go back and look. It's not like back in the olden days when all we had was the TV, and only the people who could remember exactly what they said would pick up on it. It's like everything's on the internet now. So, Michael Hartson, how you doing today? I've been listening, working, but yes, I agree. Hey, shout out to you, Michael Hartson. Ogronic said, if I said what I think, I'd be taken out. That's funny. That is funny. Yeah. So, have you guys ever heard of tacos for life? Tacos for life. Every time you buy a taco, bowl, salad, quesadilla, or nachos, you provide a meal to a child in need. I reviewed it today. It was all right. It was all right, dude. In my opinion. I also reviewed BK today. And Mackenzie, what's your input on the Iranian war? Back to sleep. All right. Back to sleep. Robin said, I'm invested. Like I said, I try to keep my kids safe. That's my main concern. My second main concern is making sure the American people are safe. I have empathy for everyone in the world. However, there are lines you don't cross. There's things that shouldn't be said. And I just want there to be an agreement of peace in all nations. I would be asking a miracle, but that's the hope I'm hanging on to. Good girl, Mackenzie. Yeah. Yeah, she is a good girl. But yeah, peace would be great. World peace would be great. So, my buddy, I'll talk about my friend here for a couple minutes. He just quit his job. He had a 10-year job. He was a salesman and he was doing very well for himself. And he quit his job and he's taken this leap where you quit your job and you start something, and he's starting a brand. It's going to be clothing, and it's going to be based around. He has a very good message for it. I don't think I want to go into the message. It's basically like it's a clothing brand that represents the people in your life who push you and who motivate you, but you don't necessarily, are constantly telling them, oh, you're my motivation, you're my inspiration. This is kind of a clothing company based around that premise. So yeah, he's getting started with that, and I'll tell you guys the Instagram and stuff when he has all of it up and running. But yeah, very excited for him. He's not really a social media guy. He just got on Instagram. I think like he started playing around on it like a week ago or something. So basically, no experience in social media, no experience in clothing. But he just said, "Screw it! I'm quitting my job. I'm taking life by the balls, if you will." And he's starting this thing. So very excited for him. I've always been that friend. I've always been that friend where, I try to ask the right questions. And I think at some point, maybe I asked him a right question when he was working at his job. And it was just along the lines of like, because he had told me that he didn't want to continue working at his job, his 9 to 5. He would drive like an hour to work and then an hour home. And he has a newborn baby, and he has also a daughter who I think she's 3. I want to say maybe no, probably 3. So very young children, and he was just getting frustrated coming home from work, having like 20, 45 minutes maybe to see your kids before they go to bed, and you got to wake up in the morning and do it all over again. And there's a lot of people who say, well, that's life. And it's like, well, no, no, no. That's how some people live, and that's totally okay. As long as you're happy and, you're proud. If you're proud and you're happy, there's nothing wrong with that. But the moment that you start to think like maybe I could be doing something else with my time because I want to have more purpose than just what I'm kind of constrained to at my job. So yeah, I like I said, I moved here about a year ago. He lives in the area, and he just took that leap of faith. You do it the right way. You put your 2 weeks in, and all that good stuff. Robin said good for him. I would love to get started on social media, but there are a couple things I'm worried about. Number 1, I may be a tad too boring, LOL. Number 2, everything has been done. What do I choose to show that hasn't already been shown? Number 3, if I do social media, do I really want that kind of attention? My social anxiety wouldn't allow it, LOL. Yeah, it's definitely, like I said, it's a leap of faith, and he's at the point right now where I said he's just starting to get into the Instagram world. And I've been doing social media marketing for 15 years. I'm 31 right now. So when I was 16 in high school, I started on Twitter, and I would write jokes on Twitter, build up a large following on Twitter. My friend Kyle taught me how to do it. And I've been doing it for a long time, mainly under other aliases. And then I started doing it for businesses. I started running businesses, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that good stuff. So I have a depth of knowledge when it comes to social media, and my buddy is going to be coming over. I'm going to talk to him today, I think around 2:30. And then I'm going to give him basically like homework because he's coming over tomorrow. And we're just going to, work together basically. Because when you're starting something that you have like no idea what you're doing, and you have a friend or somebody who knows that world, you're going to want to try to get as much help from them as possible. And it's a cool thing for me too, because all day I'm here chilling, with Mackenzie girl. That's my girl. But yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody to work alongside of, and if I can help out his business in any way, that'd be awesome. So yeah, just figured I would tell that little story because you can be at any point in your life. He just bought a house, newborn baby, and a baby that's 2 years as well. And he has a wife. So you could be at any point in your life and just, really kind of, if you're unhappy, if you're filled with anxiety and depression and you want to make a change, it doesn't matter where you are in life. As long as you can make it happen, that's all that matters. So Ogoronix said, I personally found that it's easier to get engagement on TikTok than every other platform. Yes, 100%. That's one of the things for him is he's just like getting started on Instagram a little bit. I'm like, dude, you're going to need to be on Facebook. You're going to need to be on TikTok and Instagram, like those three at least. Because at the end of the day, the max amount of eyes that you get on your content, the better. The American Power Hour here, and I give him like straight up examples of what I deal with on a day-to-day basis in my social media shit. I've been recently talking about the algorithm on TikTok, about how ever since the Israel USA acquisition of TikTok, they've throttled views of local mom and pop shops, and they've boosted videos that are major chains. So it was something that I was testing last week. I was testing last week on my platform of 530,000 followers on TikTok, constantly testing, right? Reading the data, reading the analytics. That's something I told him. I'm like, it's so much fun because it's a daily thing. Like you gotta, it's like I don't want to say it's a grind as in you're working hard physically, but as far as learning new things, there's not much. I'm sure there are other jobs out there, but social media is really a thing where it's constantly changing. And if you're not up on your shit, you'll fall off. Robin said, really? That's the big one right now, huh? I hate to say it because I'm old as dust, but I guess I'll try TikTok. Yeah, TikTok's the biggest one right now, as far as like getting quick engagements and stuff like that. And they have the TikTok shop as well. So if you are selling clothing or something like that, TikTok's a great platform to be on. So yeah, just like a little bit of, let me open up this thing real quick. Hold on. All right. Okay. All righty. So we're going to check Twitter real quick because we'll see if anything is trending, anything going on right now in the world. Jim Carrey, that was something we talked about on Friday's show. If you guys saw Jim Carrey, he looked different for sure. He looked a little bit puffier. He had a puffier face. I don't know. I'm sure it'll pop up. Here it is. So this is... Okay, now there's this person named Alex Stone claiming that he was Jim Carrey over the weekend in Paris. That's fake. It's fake. This is not the guy. This is not the guy. Because listen, if this was the guy who actually did it, he would have posted the entire video of him getting ready as Jim Carrey. But the thing is, this video here that we're seeing...
Stone is known for hyper-realistic celebrity outright. That wasn't Jim Carrey.
So this photo here that was posted on Alex Stone's Instagram account, people are like, oh, look, see, he has a mask and hair. And so that means he was Jim Carrey. This is AI. This is an AI photo. This is not... It's not real. So... yeah, a lot of people are thinking that Jim Carrey was replaced. I think that's the Jim Carrey that was most definitely Jim Carrey, said Robin. Yes, a lot of people are saying that it wasn't Jim Carrey. That's a screenshot from Mrs. Doubtfire, LOL. Yeah, so like I said, it was not it was not a fake person. It was, in fact, Jim Carrey. He was just looking a little different. Haven't seen him in a few years. Maybe got some Botox done. He is getting older, unfortunately. I loved Jim Carrey when I was growing up. He was really one of my favorite actors. Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Yeah, great movies when I was a kid. So let's see if there's anything trending. Today's news. Shia LaBeouf comments that big gay people are scary after arrest. Alrighty. Texas Governor Greg Abbott posts and deletes video game footage mistaken for U.S.-Iran war. Let me see. Is this the video? This is most likely the video. So it was a video. The Texas governor was duped by video game footage and believed he was watching actual war footage between the U.S. and Iran. So we talked about how Twitter is like slop. Like it is it's a messy social media platform, and there's a lot of brainwashing that goes on this platform. So much brainwashing that the Texas governor, Greg Abbott was his name, I believe. Trump's war is so unpopular that Republicans are now resorting to posting fake footage to prop it up. Who said this? Oh, yeah, I was wondering why it was written like that. That makes sense. So yeah, I guess he deleted it. That's wild. That's like the definition of spreading misinformation. At least he deleted it though, right? Could have been worse, I guess. What else is trending today? Eddie Murphy? Why is Eddie Murphy trending? I always get scared when I see like a celebrity like this trending. I hope he's okay. Oh. Random shit trends on Twitter. So it doesn't really seem like there's too much going on today other than the Iranian war. Exclusive from TMZ. It really was Jim Carrey at the award show in Paris, his publicist said. Yeah. I mean, I would assume it would be. If there was proof that it wasn't, we would have it. I think we would have it at this point. So yeah, that's basically it as far as Twitter goes. The old Twitter. You gotta love Twitter, right? Oh, Gronik said, that's my governor, unfortunately. Oof, that's tough. That's tough. He's the guy, and he had like did he fight for America and something happened to his leg and he's in a wheelchair? Is that governor? Robin said, gasp, is he a clone now too? They got Eddie Murphy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Truman Show, great movie. Truman Show is a great movie. You get older and suddenly you're a clone. Montgomery to the Texans? No way. Did I miss that? Did I miss that? Montgomery? Wait, what's his name? David Montgomery. Yeah, okay. Did this actually go through? Is this real? David Montgomery? Wasn't there another running back named Ty Montgomery at some point? For the Chicago Bears, maybe? He was pretty good. Yeah, see, so sometimes there's some good stuff on here. Could have been fake, though. I'm not seeing any other things about it. The Buffalo Sabres. I need to talk about the Buffalo Sabres real quick here. I was watching the Don't Be Sour podcast with Max Tuning and all them dudes. Max Tuning is the guy who created Sour Strips. You know, the gummy candy that's in gas stations and Targets and whatnot. Max Tuning created that. I like his podcast. He has a podcast here, and he gets a couple other of the guys from the Houston, Texas area. Christian Guzman, he created Alpha Land, Alpha Elite. Alpha Elite is a clothing brand, and Alpha Land is his gym, which I got to go to when I was doing food reviews. I stayed in that area, and I got to actually go to the Alpha Land gym, and it was the most incredible gym I've ever been to in my entire life. It was amazing. It was huge. There was like 3 basketball courts, like 2 volleyball courts, like 3 different gyms that you can choose from. There's like an outside gym, there's like an inside gym, and then there's like a cardio and strength lifting gym. It was. I would definitely go back and do it. I think a day pass was like $30 or something ridiculous. Maybe it was 20, but it was worth it in my opinion. I love working out. So, let me talk about the Buffalo Sabres real quick. I think the NHL trade deadline is Friday, maybe Thursday, and the Buffalo Sabres are currently in a position where they just won another 3 straight games. Coming off of the Olympic break, the Sabres were in a good place to make the playoffs. And all of a sudden, they rip off 3 straight games, 3 wins straight. And you're talking about beating the New Jersey Devils, who might be a playoff team, the Florida Panthers, which in the past was a great team. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs this year because of how many injuries that they had. And then we just beat the Tampa Bay Lightning on Saturday. The Tampa Bay Lightning are top tier, cream of the crop in the Eastern Conference for hockey. And the Sabres smashed them. I think it was like 6-1 or something. So right now the Buffalo Sabres, I believe, are in second place in the division. And like I said, the trade deadline is the end of this week. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Buffalo Sabres make some big splashes, maybe make a move. Robin said, good talking again, Nick. Thank you for my first engaging conversation in years. It was such a good release from the daily struggle we call life. I gotta head out. Gonna go tend to my sick son. Take care. Bye, Mackenzie. Hey, I hope your son feels better, Robin. Glad you got to be here today. Mackenzie says, see you later, Robin. Ogoronix said, I'm a Wilds fan. Minnesota Wild. Same for NFL. The trade deadline is in a couple days. The Buffalo Bills. I would love to see the Buffalo Bills bring in, what's his name, Romeo Dobbs? Robin said, thank you. The croup is not a fun one, but thankful he's doing okay. Ooh, I had croup a lot when I was a kid. Horrible. It feels like I'm dying. It feels like you're dying when you have the croup because you cannot breathe. And usually it happens in kids, and I couldn't breathe. You're like, those are basically the breaths. You could take like a quarter breath every time you try to breathe, and it's terrifying. But after the first few croup flare-ups, in my eyes, I was able to kind of understand what was going on. Robin said never dealt with it, but last night he stopped breathing. We took him to the hospital and he felt much better after. Yep, so my dad used to take me outside in the cold. I remember the cold would help it 1,000,000%. And then the other thing that it helps some people is going into a hot shower with all the steam. For whatever reason, that didn't help me. The steam did not help me, but going outside into the cold helped clear it up, and having, sitting on my dad's lap or whatever and just like breathing the cool air. But yeah, I hope everything works out, Robin. It will. It will. Um, so yeah, sports, exciting sports time of the year. You know, we're getting into playoff time soon for hockey. Getting into playoff time soon for basketball. It's a fun time of the year. You know, there's a couple of really fun times of the year, and uh, you know, playoff football is one of them. Robin said, we definitely tried that. The hot steam, the cold seemed to help immediately. Thank you. He's just 5, so I worry. Yeah, I think that I was probably around the same age, maybe 5, 6. Yeah, the cold. That's what helped with me. Um, and I never had any repercussions from anything that I dealt with from croup. So it wasn't like it's like a lifelong. It was a lifelong thing, or I'm still dealing with certain things from it today. It was just something that happened, and I just outgrew it or something. Kind of similar with the night terrors I used to have. I used to have night terrors when I was a kid. The night terrors were crazy, dude. I'll tell this quick story. We're 50 minutes into the American Power Hour. I'll tell this story and then we'll wrap it up. But I used to have night terrors when I was a kid. And when I would go to sleep, this is kind of crazy. I don't know if maybe I told this like years ago. Michael Hartson says sleep paralysis, question mark, potentially. So I would go to sleep, right? And this is when I was around like 6 years old, 7 years old. I would go to sleep, and then something would happen where I would like drift like in this is so weird to try to explain, but I would fall asleep, and as I was falling asleep, I was falling. And it was this feeling in my entire body that I was falling endlessly. And eventually, it's like I was free falling, and eventually I would start to float above my body and literally see myself. And I would see myself sleeping in my bed, and I would have that feeling of the falling, but I was going in reverse. I was going up. So I would have the feeling of falling, except I was going up because I was watching my body sleeping in the bed getting smaller and smaller. And I remember thinking when I was a kid, I was like, how do I have this POV of myself right now? Because there's supposed to be a roof on the house. There's supposed to be a ceiling. How am I just continuously floating up? So I would continue floating up, floating up, floating up, floating up. And my body would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And the darkness would set in. And I would be in a state to where my parents would find me, like I would like sleepwalk. And also there were times when I would be awake. And like Ogoronic said, never heard that happen to anyone else in my life. It's pretty crazy, dude. So sometimes I would wake up on an operating table, like in my dream. Like it was a dream. I would be on an operating table, and there were these. I would remember like the stainless steel, and like sterile. Everything was very sterile, like white everything, and there would be like people working on my stomach, dude. They would be like sewing something up in my stomach and like cutting stuff in my stomach. And during that, I would be screaming in the dream. I would be like screaming, like, help me, help me, help me. In reality, I would be on like the edge of my bed, sitting up in bed. And my dad would be like trying to shake me awake, trying to shake me awake. And I would be sitting there screaming like, help me, like they're trying to get me. Michael said, it sounds similar to people who experience alien abductions, but no aliens in your case. Yeah, so here was the thing. When this was happening, I don't know if they were aliens that were working on me in this dream, but they were like gray, tall figures. And I didn't know exactly what they were. Looking back at it, most likely just my imagination, like imagining aliens or something. But I remember I never told my dad like what was exactly happening. Because I would be conscious I would be conscious knowing that I was being like operated on in this dream, and also speaking to my dad who was right next to me at the time, telling him, and these figures, these like shadowy tall figures, they told me I can't tell my dad exactly what it is, so tell him it's ninjas. And I remember telling my dad, I'm like, because I was telling my dad, I'm like, they're getting me, Dad, they're getting me. And he's like, what's getting you? And I'm like, the ninjas are getting me. So he was able to understand that I was just having like a nightmare type thing, sleep paralysis or whatever it may be. And dude, this happened for like 3 years. Like 3 years. It wasn't every single night, but it was like a couple times a month, maybe once a month. This would happen where I would literally I would float above my body, have the feeling of dude, for a while I couldn't even talk about it because it would like bring tears to my eyes because I would feel that feeling again. And it was the most unnerving, otherworldly feeling I've ever had in my entire life. What's up, Christy? How you doing today? Better severely late than never, they say. Hey, you're running on Nick time today. That's what my dad says. My dad says I run on Nick time. Michael Hartson says, has it happened present day? Sounds intense. Dude, it was the most like intense shit I've ever experienced in my life. Christy said, not doing great, but life goes on. LOL. What's wrong? Is anything you could talk about, or hope everything's all right, health and everything. But yeah, these experiences that I had when I was a kid, it was right around the croup thing as well, right around the same time. So I just chalk it up to, just a kid with a creative imagination, with crazy dreams. But like Michael Hartson said before, sounds similar to people who experience alien abductions. I've read stories, dude. I've read stories online where I had to stop reading it halfway through because it was exactly what I experienced. And I, like I said, I couldn't read any more of the article because I'm terrified of that ever happening again. Mackenzie, you crying over there? You all right? You okay, kid? You're just dreaming. Buddy. Christy said, we haven't sold our previous house, and apparently there was a pipe that busted within the past month. Had no idea since nobody is there. Water bill jumped from $20 to $1,800. Oh my gosh. That is brutal, Christy. I'm sorry that happened. That's annoying. That is a tough thing to have to deal with. Christy said, we think it had to happen when that ice storm went through Mississippi. Yep. Michael Hartson said, I'd read the book on it if you ever get to that point, a memoir. Thank you, Michael. I don't know if I could even, I don't even know if I could even express, like, it would be an experience to try to get all of that into words that made sense. And it would be difficult for me to do so. But it would be, yeah, like you said, it would be interesting. Yeah, so hopefully I wasn't abducted by aliens when I was a kid. Yeah, but Christy, yeah, that sucks. I mean, I'm assuming you're going to try to get it sold soon, but you'll probably, maybe you can sell it. I hope there's not too much damage. The water bill jumping like that's crazy. It sucks. Hopefully there's not too much damage to the house, though. Damn. Yeah, so just to do a little recap, in case you ever missed any part of the American Power Hour, you can always go to the... Yeah. You can always go to the Rumble, the YouTube, and the Facebook. Ogoronic said, I mean, do you believe in aliens? Yes, I do. I do believe in aliens. 100%. I definitely believe in aliens. But as far as their capabilities go, I don't know exactly. And again, it gets into a big thing, where it's like, okay, like where is our consciousness exactly? Is it on board like our current systems, or is it somewhere else? And then from there you can it's a slippery slope. It's a deep rabbit hole. And we're gonna save it for we're gonna save it for another day. Maybe if it's slow news day on Wednesday, we can talk more about it. But I have a call coming up with my friend who's starting that clothing company that I told you guys about before. Christy said we had someone go to the house and there was no water damage, thank the Lord. So it had to have been a busted pipe beneath the house. Now they'll just to get that fixed, so they'll adjust the water bill. Okay, cool. So at least it could have been a lot worse. Maybe imagine if like a pipe in the basement broke or something, or I don't know if you have basements there. Some places don't have basements, dude. I think like Florida. So Christy said could have been much worse. Yeah, could have been brutal. But yeah, I guess luckily it just is what it is. And like you said, life goes on. Just gonna have to deal with it, and that's all we can do is pick up and move forward. And the South doesn't have basements, LOL, said Christy. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I noticed a lot of my friends in this area who have houses don't have basements too. So that the math adds up there. Christy said, I was shocked when house hunting up here how many houses have basements. Yeah, it's normal up there. It's definitely normal. It probably has to do with pipes. I think they use like cheaper pipes down south, which are liable to freezing, which is probably what happened. And I think they use different pipes up north so they can build basements. I don't know if that makes sense, but I do know that they use different pipes. So I don't know if the two are connected, but Christy said you'd think that states that have frequent tornadoes would have basements. Yeah, I would think so. That would make sense. So you have somewhere to go if there's a tornado. But yeah, I'm gonna head off, guys. I have a call with my friend who's starting that clothing company. I talked about it earlier in the show. If you ever miss a part of the live, you can go to the YouTube, the Facebook, or the Rumble account. Michael, have a fantastic day. Christy, have a great day. Thank you for being here today. Ogoronics, Robin, shout out to Robin. Shout out to Geo Swag. And shout out to Ravioli, man. Talked a lot today. War in Iran. So if you want the recap, head over to the YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble. American Power Hour. Every subscription helps the lights stay on. So, Mackenzie, want to say goodbye? Goodbye. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your Monday, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace out.